think Lonnie's taller than I am. Well, thank you for that introduction, and thanks to Lonnie for organizing this fabulous evening. I'm going to read a little bit from the very, very beginning of the novel, Absent a Miracle, because it spares me having to explain it, which I'm not very good at. So I will read the prologue, which is very brief, and then a couple of pages of the very first chapter, and then we can just chat. So, 2 young men, Abelardo Llobet Carvajal, a Nicaraguan of an old landed family from the ancient capital of Leon, already wise in the ways of coffee, cattle, chickens, and sugar cane, and Waldo Fairweather IV, the older son of Waldo Fairweather III and Posey Fairweather, née Pinchbeck, from Catamount and Bug Harbor, Maine, an incipient inventor with a tortured family history of inventions unrewarded, are sprawled across the sofa. The sofa in question, acquired from the former residents of the suite, party-loving members of the lightweight crew and one German scholar, is dimpled, beer-stained, and at this moment littered with popcorn. From their third-floor window in Quincy House, they can watch the completely predictable activity on the green. Abelardo's English is perfect, and at times he is more easily understood, even with his accent, than his friend from Maine. He says, "My sister is coming." "Which one? Don't you have several? Have I seen a picture?" "Only one would come here, Carmen." "When?" "She should be downstairs by now." "You could have warned me." "How does she handle squalor?" "Nothing frightens her," Abelardo says. When Carmen enters the room, it is as if the decrepit sofa, the stained rug, and the tasteless posters all recede like a full moon low tide, and the space is taken up by beauty, scent, and wind. For a week, it is always the three of them, always together. Carmen goes to classes with Abelardo, and Waldo skips his classes to come along. She eats meals with them in the dining hall. Every evening, both young men walk her back across the bridge to the turreted 19th century guest house maintained by the diocese for Catholic visitors with ecclesiastical connections. Abelardo arranged the accommodations for his beautiful younger sister, who takes every opportunity to explain that she has ceased to believe in the Immaculate Conception, the virgin birth, the Shroud of Turin, and the resurrection of anyone. Waldo is undone and transformed. He sits up straighter. He keeps his jokes to the bare minimum. He takes cold showers whenever he can. Waldo falls in love. On the 7th day of his sister's visit, Abelardo has an appointment with his advisor, and Carmen says she would rather walk along the Charles with Waldo. In no time at all, Waldo tells her she is lovely and enticing beyond words. Carmen tells him that she is a virgin and would rather not be, and she would love to go back to their suite and learn the ways of sex on their sofa. They do. Carmen enjoys it more than she imagined, Waldo less so, but he is no less in love. When Abelardo returns from his appointment, Waldo and Carmen are dressed and sitting under a pollen-dripping tree on the green. Carmen tells her brother that thanks to his wonderful roommate, she is no longer burdened with virginity. Abelardo buries his face in his hands and stays that way for what seems like several minutes, at least to Waldo. When Abelardo raises his head, he says, "I knew this would happen. I should have warned you, Waldo. This is what I should have warned you about." Waldo says, "I don't know what to say. Your sister is extraordinary." "Say nothing. You don't need to say anything. I know Carmen, after all." Carmen says, "You are both so serious. Everything is fine. Tomorrow is my last day, and I would like to see the glass flowers." That very afternoon, the three cross Harvard Yard and go to the Peabody to see the glass flowers. Carmen is not disappointed. She is enchanted with the glass lady slippers. Waldo tells her those flowers grow in hidden places in the Maine woods, though it is illegal to pick them because they are so precious. Abelardo explains they are members of the same orchid family whose tropical relatives grow all over Las Brisas, their coffee farm. Carmen says these look nothing at all like lady slippers. She does not say what she thinks they really look like. When Carmen Llobet Carvajal has returned to her convent school in the hills outside Matagalpa, where it pains the nuns to love her as much as they do, given her apostasy. When the air has ceased to rustle and her scent has dissipated, Waldo tells his roommate Abelardo that he would ask his sister to marry him if only she were not so fearless. Abelardo would shrug if he ever shrugged. He tells Waldo it is a moot point because his sister will never again leave Nicaragua, though he is wrong about this. And he asks Waldo, how fearless can that be? That's the prologue. 12 years later, the book starts, and Waldo does not marry Carmen. And the book is narrated by the woman he does in fact marry, whose name is Alice. So I'll just read a little bit of this. My name is Alice Hewen Fairweather. It used to be Alice Yvette Hewen, because Yvette was my mother's maiden name. All three sisters got the same middle name. I stopped using Yvette when I became a Fairweather. Why? Because I was madly in love. Given what happened, it would have been somewhat amusing if Yvette were still on my passport, because in Spanish, they and they are basically the same letter, writ small, de pequeño, or writ large, de grande. About 2 months before Waldo and the boys went on vacation, I lost my job hosting the Dream radio show, Monday mornings for 3 hours on WBLT. Start your week by freeing up your subconscious. Tell me, Alice Fairweather, and our listeners in the tri-state area last night's dream, and we'll tell you the obvious. The events were not related in any way. I was sacked in December. You'd think that even the dimmest station manager would realize that it is especially in the trying holiday times that listeners need to be able to tell their dreams live and be reassured. But no, without the slightest consideration for the spirit of baby Jesus or Rockefeller Center, Trudy Swatherton, in an act of generosity so rare it should have alerted me to the coming blow, took me to Joe's Rib Joint, and then she fired me. She canceled my show and left the itchy dreamers of the region with no outlet, no airwaves, no listeners, no disembodied voice beckoning them to unload the lingering memories of weird and disturbing dreams. Trudy knew damn well I was a vegetarian and had been since the first mad cow scare. About the only things I could eat at Joe's Dead Cow Emporium were fried mozzarella sticks and hush puppies. I would have eaten fish, but none were on offer. I sat there, huddled there, beneath faux antique wagon wheels, branding irons, cow skulls, and horns. And Trudy ordered a pitcher of beer for the two of us and told me that my skills were wasted in talk radio. I had no idea what skills she was referring to, and I'm sure neither did she. Trudy claimed she wanted to let me down gently, but I knew better. I knew that she was worried I would reveal what I knew of her dreams. People can rationalize all they want about the workings of the unconscious, but the truth is that we all feel somewhat responsible for the content of our dreams. And if our dreams are kinky or perverted or repulsive, and Trudy's were all of these, then it must be inferred that we are kinky, perverted, or repulsive as well. So I'll stop reading there. And, well, I can't do some questions. My voice isn't too cracky. Please ask a question. Yes.
When did you start writing?
The book?
Or in general?
My first book was a complete imitation of a Nancy Drew. That was my main inspiration for many years. So it was a long time ago. Yeah.
Are the characters based in reality and real people?
To the extent that we all write from, at least I do, have to write from what I know, they are based. This book is set, the last part of the book is set in Nicaragua, and I've spent a lot of time there. So I've taken bits and pieces of people I know in Nicaragua and used it, but there's no one character that is easily transferred to the book, much as various family members would like to think so. Okay. Yeah?
So what was the inspiration for, we woke up one day and said, I'm going to write this story. What was the inspiration for it?
Well, this story, I wondered about that for a long time. I was writing, I was going, why am I writing this? Because in the story, the Abelardo that we meet in the prologue, comes up to see Alice, who has just lost her job at Waldo. And the reason he has come to upstate New York is because he's doing research in order to make a case for his great aunt to be canonized, to become the first Nicaraguan sort of homegrown saint. And something happens, and he can't, which I won't say. And he ends up having to go back to Nicaragua, and Alice sort of takes over this quest for him, and then ends up going back to Nicaragua. So I'm still going to answer your question. Once I was in Nicaragua with, I used to do business down there, and there were always like lots of men and engineers, and they always struck me as so much more serious than me, and I was always really trying very hard to be serious and be a part of that, and not very successfully. And once we were in this really small plane and lost, I didn't know that at the time, which is a good thing. And this man that I knew pulled out of his pocket, he pulled his wallet out of his pocket, and he had this tiny little, like the size of my fingernail, scrap of white fabric. And it was cut from the underwear of a nun, a Nicaraguan nun who had recently died, and there was anticipation that this would be a relic, presumed. It would be an official relic, presumed she got canonized. And I was just shocked, because this was a very, very successful businessman. I mean, his mother-in-law was the president of the country. And I thought this was one of the strangest things, and somehow that stayed in my brain. That doesn't actually end up in the story, but that's what got me going. So, yes?
How long did it take you to write the book?
Too long, probably about 4 years. I'm really slow.
Do you have to be away somewhere to write, or do you write in your normal environment every day?
No, I have an office in my house, which is very nice, so I'm lucky about that. I mean, I've written in other places, but I just like to hold up at home. It's good.
You mentioned earlier you work in Nicaragua. Was there a reason or special connection why Nicaragua, or
It was
just a chance you got there?
It was involved with my family. We had different businesses in Nicaragua that my father was involved with for years. And so it's a great country. I reckon everybody should go to Nicaragua.
Was my next question. What about Nicaragua plans to back?
I really like the people. It's a very it's a beautiful country. I mean, it's as beautiful as any other popular tourist attraction, except it has terrible politics and a horrible infrastructure, and they've been plagued by American invasions and despots and greedy dictators, and I could go on. But it's still a great country, and the people, if you were ever invited to a party with Nicaraguans, go. They are the best partiers. And they're also very, very devout in the most bizarre ways that you can imagine. Yeah.
Do dreams continue to play a part in the book, or is that just...
Well, they do, because Alice has 2 sons, and one of her sons often tells his dreams. He's a little unusual that way. Not too much, because I've discovered that actually most people really don't like to hear dreams. They just like to... The concept is more interesting than the reality. I think that's enough. Thank you very much.